Good space time, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of the Citizen Web3 podcast, your source for educational insights into the Web3 universe and your connection hub to discovering those that contribute to building the decentralized world. Today, we are joined by Boxer from Dune Analytics. We talk about the tech, Level 8, Code Spaghetti, and the Wild West. We dive into queries, click farms, algorithms demanding attention, and informational diet. Finally, we discuss touching grass, dopamine, sound sources, and the research scene in Vietnam. If you enjoy our podcast, please share this episode onto your favorite social platform and help us spread Web3 values into the universe.
Who governs the protocol is who owns the tokens. One query to rule them all, like kind of a Lord of the Rings. Yeah, the situation is really like untenable, to be honest. Like everything is so public. Like it's incredible how public everything is. So like you really need to like curate your information diet. Do you think there's that many DeFi researchers in Vietnam, like, or in Indonesia? Like I have my doubts.
Hi everybody, welcome to a new episode of the Citizen Web3 podcast. Today I have Boxer from Dune Analytics. Boxer, hi, welcome to the show, man.
Hi man, glad to be here.
Yeah, man. It's not often we have researchers. I mean, I like to categorize my guests. I'm sorry for doing that. So straight out of the bucket, boom. So I'm glad to have you on, man. Can you introduce yourself? I mean, boring question, for me, for the guests, for the listeners, for everybody. Introduce yourself and tell us what you do in Web3. How did you get to this life, man?
Sure. Yeah, researcher is a category that I don't think about, like myself, too often.
There we go. It's a good start.
Fair enough. So I do developer relations for Dune and have been doing that for 3 years. I'm based in Germany. Not a lot of Web3 people in Germany, so I'm kind of like, I mean, now it's getting kind of more, but like as I was starting, there's like a very like small scene in Berlin. I'm more in the western part of Germany, so like I'm literally like I used to live on a like in a small village, and I was literally like the only person in like a 50-kilometer radius, like who's able to explain the blockchain. So really kind of like trawled my way into this industry, like by just
to Berlin.
Yeah. Yeah, it's still not in Berlin. It's a nice city, but like too busy for me. So yeah, do DevRel for Dune. I guess researcher. I also have a podcast together with Denning from Flashbots and Hildebert from Dragonfly. Or Hildobby. And yeah, there we talk Web3 data. We actually take apart different kind of verticals or horizontals of the industry and try to make sense of that. So like I'm kind of a researcher in that position. And I think the job of a DevRel in general is like you just need to be kind of on top of things. Like you need to understand the space deeply so you can build tutorials, you can write documentation, you can actually help the users out. Because like people on Dune are not researching like, I don't know, like things from yesteryear. They're always like on the bleeding edge. And if I want to be able to help them out, I need to be able to like converse in their language. Like I need to understand the concepts. And yeah, so that's it's a short, slightly chaotic introduction to myself.
I'm going to dig it a little bit if you don't mind. I saw you have a pinned tweet on Twitter. Well, it's not doesn't take a lot to see it, so it wasn't much research. And it talks about pickle finance and how you. I remember pickle finance very well. I remember the jars and everything and all the brine and all that stuff, man. And as originally an Eastern European, it was very dear to my heart. I mean, we Eastern Europeans, we love pickles. So I'm sorry, guys, but I'm going to make the stigmatic thing. Can you talk me a little bit through that of DeFi summer or did you actually get to crypto before DeFi summer? How was that whole swirl happening around you?
Yeah, there's always a million ways into crypto. Mine was, I thought Dogecoin was funny while I was like in my final year of high school. So I was barely 18, so able to sign up for exchange. And then in 2014, yeah, I bought my first Dogecoin for like $10, which in hindsight, I should have invested more like that. Like I would probably be retired, but I just thought it was funny. I was like going to school and telling my friends, hey, I bought some of this like shitcoin. And I think this was like the height of Dogecoin where they were like sponsoring like the Jamaican like Bob team, the like bobsleigh team or whatever, and they were sponsoring like a NASCAR thing. So like I just thought that was interesting, and it's kind of like kind of peak internet culture at that time, where it's like, oh, okay, there's this Dogecoin thing, it's very cool. At that point, like I didn't understand blockchains. I was just like, oh, this is some like funny, cute little thing in the internet. Basically like buried all of that for like a bunch of years, but I held my Dogecoin. And then in 2017, I was studying business administration. But obviously in 2017 or like, early 2017, there was like the first kind of like run up to like $300-400 of Ethereum. And I somehow got wind of that. I think there was some, like, there's a YouTube channel, Adapt 2030. I recently kind of rediscovered this. And it's about like a guy who's been predicting the next ice ages in the next year for the last like 10 years now. It's incredible. It's like, it's such a like ridiculous, like, I don't know what I was doing on that channel. Like I was just like, okay, interesting. Like let's look at this guy kind of like going on like with his conspiracy theories about, he's talking about like the solar cycles and everything. Like there's like I don't know, there's like you can even like, you can kind of map like solar activity to like civilizational peaks and bottoms. So like it actually like there's something to this. I don't know why this guy like specifically predicts ice age, but like I guess that's like a good niche for like conspiracy stuff. Like he seems to be doing well for himself, so kudos to him. But he was like, okay, like before the next ice age hits, like people are preparing by buying like shares in the like new internet computer. And I'm like, okay, like there's an internet computer, like this sounds very cool. So that was Ethereum. I was studying business administration, and like I think like if you think about like what the world runs on and like how difficult like consensus is and like how difficult it is to like do contractual obligations and like all the like benefits that like a no trust environment has, which we are creating with like this shared world computer, that like immediately connected with me. And I was always like kind of tech savvy, even though I was studying business administration. I don't know, like I was always like, I cracked my own games, and like kind of like I come from that area of or like from that era of like computing, and like was fixing iPhones for a time with my brother just to like resell them, refurbish them. I don't know, like my iPhone had CDR since like 2013, so I was always the kind of like on the like I never wrote code myself, but I was always like a super user of software, or like a super user of like different things. So yeah, 2017, and then like Ethereum never kind of left me. I obviously like 2018, I absolutely got wrecked. It's like I held everything, and then I was like, there in Germany, there's a rule of like you don't pay taxes if you hold your assets for longer than a year. And I was like, I'm not gonna pay taxes, whatever. Like the prices can go up and down. Like I'm not gonna pay. And then like I paid the heaviest of prices, which was like I should have just sold and paid my taxes, and that would have been like a way better deal than like holding everything to zero. Like not to zero, like I was in like I consolidated into majors at the end, so like I didn't get completely wrecked, but like it was pretty bad. And yeah, then so that's 2017, 2018. Then I kind of like went on a like I actually took my like that's like a year of my life where like I exclusively spent on crypto. It's like I basically like I didn't drop out of university. I was still like technically enrolled, but I think I did like I don't know like 6 ECTS credits that year, so like basically nothing. And then in 2018 I was like, okay, like I didn't get rich quick, so like get back to studying. But it was always like I was always like at that time I think ETH Finance, or like oh no, it was not called ETH Finance at that time. Like there was a Reddit sub, ETH Trader maybe. There was like a split at some point into like ETH Finance. And
I'm
ETH
trying
Trader.
to remember, but I don't know if it was ETH Trader. I think, or I also don't remember.
Yeah,
that,
I think
but
ETH Trader was like the
about.
original one. So like I used to argue with like DC Investor in there, like I don't know, like just like write a bunch of posts and like just look for emotional support for my backs. But this was like something I pretty much did every week, or like I kept up with the industry. I was like, oh my god, there's like integrations with SAP, which is like that's like big German enterprise software. And like I was just like I'm like genuinely still excited about like the possibilities of this technology. So like this meme of like I'm in it for the tech is kind of true for me, where I think it's really interesting. And that's like still why I'm in the industry. Like I wouldn't work here if I thought it was like it's just a way to earn money. And yeah, then like I don't know, but like as time went on and as the winter got darker, like obviously my interest kind of faded. But then I think DeFi Summer 2021, Was it 2020? Yeah, it was 2021. Time flies.
Must
Yeah,
be.
it's like end of 2021, start of 2022 or so. Or was it a year later?
2020, 2021. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so
It was a
somewhere
mix.
around
It was
that.
a mix. It was a
Yeah,
mix.
yeah. So like the rest of the world, I was stuck. I was stuck at home during COVID, and then I was supposed to write my bachelor thesis. So like I didn't really take my studies too seriously. I think I took like 5 or 6 years to like even get to my bachelor thesis. But yeah, I just went on side quests. Like I traveled a lot, and I don't know, like I did martial arts like really intensively for a year. And then I don't know, like I was like I was always like going into university, I was already like, okay, I'm just doing this for this piece of paper. Like I never really like, I was never like, oh, there's these like great people who can teach me great stuff. And it's like, no, I was like, yeah, you like, I guess if I ever want to get like gainfully employed, I need this piece of paper for somebody like to consider me to hire me. In like DeFi summer somewhere, I was writing my bachelor thesis. But then DeFi summer happened, and like everything was exciting, and like we were actually like getting to like an on-chain economy, and like things were popping off. And I'd worked for like a big German corporation, kind of doing like data analysis, data science, even though like my background was like business administration, but I had like the basics of like, I don't know, I was like an Excel monkey, but like not like level 1, but like level 8. It was like pretty. Like I was scripting like a lot in DBA, and like I don't know, I had taught myself like a lot of stuff very very quickly while working there, which was basically just an internship. But like they really got me for cheap. Like I should have earned way more money than I did. Like I replaced, like at the beginning we were like 4 interns in that area. When I left, it was only me because I had automated everything. It was ridiculous. But yeah, anyways, so I had all of these skills, and then eventually, like I tried like contributing to a bunch of different DAOs. Like I thought the idea of like, hey, we can just like anyone can contribute to these protocols, and like you could just become a contributor very easily without like showing your credentials, or like without being like, hey, I have this experience or whatever. You can just like work and then get retroactively paid. So I thought that was really exciting, and then I submitted governance proposals to like a bunch of different, or like I was basically trying to contribute by like the mechanism of governance proposals. And I submitted some, I think I was in the Yearn forum, then like Rari, which was like an NFT marketplace. But then I think I already found Pickle, which was like, Pickle was like a fork of Yearn, just a yield farm. And at the time, I think the biggest product was probably like Uniswap V2, like, so Uniswap had just launched their token, and then you could stake kind of a WEF USDC, like Uni V2 liquidity token with Pickle, and they would automatically sell your yield, which was in the form of Uni, and kind of like compound the position. So like you got an APR of like, I don't know, 20 to 30% on those. So like that was a pretty good deal. And they were, I think they were a bit more like careless than than Yearn, which was a foreshadowing for how the project should kind of end. So they were just like, fuck it, ship it. We'll just like launch all of these like vaults or jars, as Pickle called them. And very quickly, I kind of became the data guy there. So at first I was like, okay, let's figure out the tokenomics here. I did that in like Excel, I think. But then eventually, I think OneTech actually like posted like a bunch of Dune links on Twitter, or like I somehow got like I got to know Dune, and I was like, oh my god, like I know SQL, like I can kind of understand the blockchain, and like at that point, like my knowledge was like limited, but like I could find my way around Etherscan, and like I kind of knew the concepts. So then I did some work for Pickle, and I got retroactively rewarded, which was very nice. So you're like, okay, I'm just a guy. I don't even have a bachelor's degree, and that now I'm like basically freelancing, and like people are actually paying like pretty good money for what I'm doing. And then like then I was basically, okay, let me do the full accounting of this protocol. And like before, I was only like I was working with like the ERC20 like Pickle, which is like, okay, where's the token? Like how many people are staking? How many people are like locked? And then it's like, okay, and now we're like in the complexities of a yield farm, where it's like, okay, like you don't only need to understand Pickle, but you need to understand Compound, and you need to understand I don't know, like Uniswap, and you need to understand, I don't know what the other like farms at the time were, but you need to understand like a bunch of different protocols because like it's a yield farm. They're farming other protocols. So like you need to understand like the state management of like all the different positions and all of that stuff. So like I submitted like a governance proposal. I was like, I'm gonna do this for like I don't know. I think my price was like $3,000 and or like 2,000 even. I don't like, it was not a lot of money or like 0.5 ETH I think. That might be, or like 4. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But like not a significant amount of money. But I had this like contributor, like my pseudonym had gained some like traction. Like people were like, okay, Boxer is like the guy for data. Like this is interesting. Like I got like the first followers on Twitter and everything. So like I was like, okay, I have a reputation to lose now. And I basically said like, I'm going to do this thing. And if I say I'm going to do something, I like, that's like how I got raised. Or like, it's very German of me to be like, I'm going to actually do this thing. So like I ran against a wall for like a month trying to figure out like how all of these different yield farms and like how all of that worked. And it's like, it was mental, man. It was so fucking hard. Like coming in from like a non-dev like background with like the tooling back in like 2021, it was so fucking hard to like figure out like how all of these yield farms work. But basically in the end, I had like one query, which was like 700 lines of code, which like did the entire accounting for like Pickle Finance. So like it showed the entire like, okay, how many fees are the devs earning? How many fees is the protocol earning? What's the total TVL here? What are like the total fees generated? Like all of this, like how much has been reinvested in all of these different yield farms. And like, it was insane. Like it's still like, I'm still pretty happy about that work, even though like the code is like spaghetti, like it's, it's spaghetti. But yeah, so like at that point, like I think the price of Ether had even like doubled. So like my initial payout was like double, which was like, that was a fair price to pay for that work. And then I basically realized like whatever I was doing with this like bachelor thesis, like I'm already earning like more money than I would ever be able to achieve. Like if I went to like my path would have probably been like some German consultancy where it's like smart people in Germany who've studied business administration who like want to reach something. It's like they go into consultancy because like all the big corps in Germany are like, they're really slow and really like rigid and like you need like permission to do anything. And it's like in the consultancies you can actually move fast and it's like kind of like the best work environment that, or like the most exciting work environment for like smart young professionals. There's not big tech scene in Germany, so like I would have had to move to Berlin or like maybe find some small startup, but like the positions there are like very limited. So like that was like the path I would have gone on. And yeah, from there it's like even like with that one tweet, I think I even called it like one query to rule them all, like kind of a Lord of the Rings analogy, and from that tweet I got like, I think DJ Spartan started to follow me, and then I knew, I remember sending the screenshot to like different people of like, hey, like this guy is following me, oh my god, I've made it and stuff. So from that moment on, I kind of freelanced for like a bunch of different protocols, and like soon after Pickle Finance got hacked, I think for like $20 million or something. So like that project pretty much shut down. So I was like, okay, let's move on. Like let's do something different. And like my like data analysis work is like, you can do like one thing and then you can kind of dive more and deeper into this topic. But like my kind of the groundwork was pretty much done. So I was like, okay, that's like, I was working with Harvest. They had like a dev contest, or like I submitted my stuff to like dev contests or like community contribution contests. I just randomly like started working for protocols where like I didn't even ask them. I was just like, here's the dashboard, and like you'd get good tips at the time. Like people were really, and I think I still think you can. I don't know how it is today. Like it's probably like a bit more rigid and structured, but like at the time it was basically like, you and me could have spun up a project, we could have called it whatever, and like people would have just deposited money. It was like the Wild West. And like the same way, like if you and me were working together and some third guy just did our data analysis, we would have been like, oh yeah, sure, like here's a couple $1,000, like whatever. So like I just like I kind of like randomly found my way around. Like I just bounced off different things and people reaching out to me like, hey, can you do data analysis for me? Yeah, at the same time I was kind of like, I got a lot of help in the Pickle. Like the Pickle community will always kind of be close to my heart, because like the main dev there, or like the devs were like, And I've met one of them in person now, which was like it was super funny. Like we didn't even like we took a moment to like realize that had happened. But yeah, like I still talk to some of them from time to time, and they're just really nice people, and they were like really they onboarded me into this world. Like without them, I couldn't have completed that work of like, hey, here's how the yield farms work and everything. And even like back then, there was like a dev channel in the Pickle Discord. And Bantek hung out there like from time to time, and he also helped me on like on onboarding. So like this like spirit of like we're all like here to learn together and stuff, that like was like very deeply embedded within me. So like at the same time, I was just helping people out in the Dune Discord, where like initially I was the one asking questions, and then like as time went on, I was like more and more being the guy who answers the questions. And I was also like giving feedback to Frederick and Mats, and so Frederick and Mats are the founders of Dune. And eventually Frederick is like, hey, like, we had a bunch of like feedback calls, and then eventually he reaches out to me and is like, hey, like, I think on a call he was just saying, you're doing all of this work for us for free. That's so amazing. Like, don't you actually want to get paid for this? And then I had like a contractor position with them for like a couple of months where I was just like answering questions in Discord. And then like that worked out so well that like eventually they were just like, don't you actually want to work for me or for us full time? And that's how I hired myself into Dune as I think the 6th or 5th employee. So yeah, that's what's behind this like pickle financing, where like I was shoving my bags around and found like a community that I thought was cool, found the skill set that I kind of had, like diced a bunch of things together, and then just ran against the wall for long enough. So my skills actually got to a level where people wanted to pay me good money for it. And yeah, I've been with Dune ever since.
No, but after listening to your story, I am sure that the word researcher applies even more now, because all of your story, man, is about like loving to research, starting from your childhood, loving to go deep into things. And I mean, maybe the word, research here connects semantically to the profession, people who are researching stuff, and especially, scientists. So maybe that was a little bit of a misconception there. But what I'm trying to do, like, sometimes we have like validators, we have founders, we have people who like to research, people who like to go deeper into things, into consensus, into analytics, and they try to look at things. And I have a weird question for you, because we started talking about pickles, and I have a question for you about research methods, and like I wanted to go into it, but I'm gonna ask it from a very different perspective. There was once when I don't remember how many years ago was this, maybe like 15 years ago, maybe something like this. This was before crypto, I think, and I saw, I believe, an article. I believe it was on the internet, and it was showing a correlation between some specific type of cancer and eating pickles. And of course, and it showed that if you eat pickles, the chances of getting this specific type of cancer goes up by 5,000%. And of course, after giving all this data, the guy was like, guys, I'm fucking with you. Obviously, like the thing is, the real chance of getting that cancer in a person is so low that 5,000% is nothing added to that number. So all this story, this is just because of the pickles, but I want to go back to you with research and like crypto. So what, in your opinion, considering you've practically went, the ideal, like in my opinion, journey in crypto, you made it yourself. You're like, you proved to yourself that you can do it. You proved to others you can do it. Other people saw it. They took it. Now, as somebody who went through all that, what should people, not even what data, but how should an average person today, doesn't matter if they've been into crypto, like, okay, our audience might be a little bit longer into crypto than the average person, there's a lot of founders and stuff like that, but still, what is the approach, not what data to look for, but what is the mindset that you need to put yourself into to find the right information about the right thing online? Let's put it like that, without going into bias.
Yeah, I see. That's a very tough question.
Fuck knows.
Yeah. I mean, to some extent, like
for you.
Yeah,
What do you do?
like how do I make sense of the world in crypto? Like how do I know what's
well,
like
in general, if information. I mean, crypto included, of course, in that. But when you approach something, like you said, we started to to look into mobile phones, into technology. I'm living in a village of 50 people. The only person talking about, but it is still for me like the same thing as researching. You're looking for answers, for information, where others people are not. How do you put yourself into that mindset of, hey, today, or like martial arts, I said I was considering martial arts for a year or so. Okay, again, how does a person like, okay, boom, this is what I need and this is how I find it? For you, at least, how does it work?
Yeah, it's an entire life spent on the internet.
There we go.
you kind of figure out. I think like the most important thing is to like figure out the right sources. So like I think in the crypto context, like this is what I can most easily speak about. There's like 4 or 5 different podcasts where I'm like, okay, these podcasts keep me up to date. I trust these opinions. I know these people are like legit people. I trust their value calls, and I trust their view of the world. And then, but you can't just listen to one guy. Like there's people who just listen to BitBoy Crypto or to Richard Hart in 2022, and they're all bankrupt. And like, that's stupid. And like, you always gotta think for yourself, and you gotta like get this orchestra of like different voices going for yourself. And like, whether you're researching crypto, and like, I guess like sources is like, for me, it's like, yeah, I really like podcasts. Like the medium is just like very accessible, where I can just like do my dishes or like do like, I don't know, eat breakfast or like do something, take a walk, and just like listen to podcasts. It's like really easy. It's kind of like passively information just kind of like does osmosis into my brain. Like I don't need to like intently focus on it. Even though like some podcasts is like more complicated than others. Sometimes I actually need to sit down and kind of like make sure that I understand everything. But yeah, like podcast, and like really curate your Twitter feed. Like if you're on Twitter a lot, I everyone keeps telling me like my For You page absolutely sucks. And then it's like, how many people have you blocked? Maybe 5, maybe 10. And it's like, bro, I can scroll through my block list for ages. Like, and there's like, I have like hundreds of words muted. And it's like, you just like, the algorithm like just wants to fuck with you. Or like, it just wants to like keep your attention. But like, it doesn't know what you like and what you don't like. So like you need to teach the algorithm what you like and what you don't like. And the most kind of like strong signal that you can give it is just like, I don't want to see any of this. Like this just fucking sucks. It's like Ansem has been like a main character for on CT for like the better part of 2 weeks or like 5-6 weeks. And in the beginning I was like, okay, interesting. Like this guy is kind of, okay, he's like the Solana shot caller. Like, let's see what's happening. And like, I followed him and like, but now it's just like, I don't know, man. Like he's just gone out there. Like he should go and touch some grass. Like he's just, and like, that's a mute. Like I just like, I'm like, I'm over this topic. I don't think like anything like productive or like fruitful will come out of this. It's just like, go to your muted words, put in Ansem, and it's like done. So like, you really need to like curate your information diet. I think that's like, with anything, with like I really like nutrition, and it's like, dude, have you tried to look into nutrition? Like, and like you go to 5 different people, there's 5 different people who will tell you 5 different like diets or like the ways to eat or like ways to like achieve like optimal health and like whatever. And like you just gotta like, you gotta pick your poison. You gotta educate yourself enough so you can actually like discern like, okay, this is interesting, this is not interesting. And I think you always like, I always try to understand like the why behind things. Like I'm very anti-authority, which is also like very like why I am in crypto probably. It's like I don't believe you just because you are a professor or because you are a person with a like PhD in something. I believe you because I can verify the facts myself. Like this is like bullshit. I always need to understand things from first principle, and I have like a very hard time like even, I don't know, like except for like personal friends where I'm just like, okay, I trust this guy like on the like merit of his character. Like I just trust what he's saying. But like with like, I don't know, like I believe the science. It's like, what science? It's like really hard to make sense of the world, even like, especially nowadays. And you really got to curate your information diet, and like, you really also got to like watch out that like, sometimes I like catch myself where people just shit in my brain. And it's like, if you're stuck on like, I don't know, like a Twitter feed that's not curated for you, or like like YouTube Shorts, whatever thing, or like I don't know. Like I see a lot of my like I don't have Instagram on my phone anymore, but like scroll through your like Instagram search feed and or like this Discover, however they call it. And it's just like this thing just shits into your brain. It's just like you don't have like you're too like you as a human are too weak. Like your dopamine system is too weak to resist these things, and you really gotta like take care of yourself and of your information diet, and you really gotta curate it. So yeah, like researching anything, it's like start from first principles, really try to go deep, like make sure that your sources are sound, and like I don't know, like a lot of times it's just it's very hard. Like not gonna lie, but that would be my approach or like my take on that.
I totally agree with you. Minimizing noise, concentrating, trying to find the right amount of, not the right amount, sorry, trying to find what connects to you, but removing the noise from it. I absolutely understand. I mean, I always try to, I mean, I'm also very anti-authoritative, and our podcast has been sometimes a bit extreme, I guess, at points, but I try, because I'm anti-authoritative, I try to like, even when I try, I'm not saying, I'm a human being, so I make mistakes. And of course, when I speak with friends, I try not to make like the comments that are like good for me. But still, you know, when I see my friends sitting there with Instagram or Twitter, I try to say to them, or like whatever, not Twitter is less, but Facebook, Instagram, say, try to find something that is going to bring you value. If you have to scroll, try to find something on Instagram, for example, or Facebook, delete the rest of them that you find, like, even if it's cooking recipes, you know, something that is valuable for you, and then keep on scrolling, you know, but at least do it with value for yourself, because that endless stupid thing is really going to kill the fucking brain. It does kill the brain, in my opinion. So it's crazy. I absolutely agree with you, man. I have, I mean, there's a lot of questions, to be honest, I have for you, but like, I'm going to try and like a little bit concentrate on what we talk about. You know, you have obviously went a lot and deep into DeFi analytics and, you know, like finding yields and finding TVLs and stuff like that. There is a huge endless conversations in crypto since 2000, I don't know, 12, 13, as I remember it, about distribution. What is your distribution of tokens? You know, how is proof of work the correct method to distribute proof of stake, liquidity mining, I don't know, whatever. As somebody who looked at a lot of distributions probably in there, analyzing projects and stuff, you know, and looking like who has what and owns what. Have you seen any examples that you would say, hey, these guys have really made a different approach without, I don't know, not necessarily naming projects if you don't want to, but at least the methodology of, I don't know, for example, liquidity mining for me was a mind-blowing thing that helped to distribute more evenly, not equally is the wrong word in my opinion here, but evenly the tokens, but what's your opinion? What's your take on that? And where do we go from here to improve it? Sorry, that's the second part of the question. Distribution in general. Again, your opinion, not the solution for the industry, you know?
Yeah, I guess like if we go through the evolution, it's like we went from most networks are POW to now most networks, or like the blockchains are actually POS. And then there's like the single like threaded sequencers and everything, or like the single like entity sequencers. And I think in DeFi we've kind of gone from IC, or like in like on-chain applications, we've gone from ICOs, which was like, I thought ICOs were fun. I don't know. Can't we go back to ICOs? It's like everyone should just like, can we co-locate in the Bahamas and all just like trade ICOs on a marketplace? Like like a market square, like in the center of town. Like that was like, yeah, I don't know. I like that era. And it was like arguably more fair and like better distribution than what we're achieving today. Like, I think like especially like let's quickly like we went from ICOs to liquidity mining in like DeFi summer to now like airdrops, and it's like really the airdrop meta absolutely sucks. I think it's like absolutely like value extractive for the industry. It's just like there's like very, very big farms. There's like a lot of automation. Like things don't really make sense anymore. Like what's the benefit to a project to like, there's a lot of farmers, and like we actually see this in Dune's user data, where like Dune's user data is like, do you think there's that many DeFi researchers in Vietnam, like, or in Indonesia? Like, I have my doubts, you know, like, I don't think there's like a population of over 100,000 DeFi researchers in Vietnam. Like, that would be odd. So like, it seems to be like, not like, I love Vietnam. I've been there. It's a very nice country, but like, it doesn't strike me as like the center of DeFi at the moment. Even though like there's actually legit projects building from there, but like what I'm alluding to is like there's airdrop farmers, and like there's like the real airdrop farmers, which are like just like one person having like 15, 20 different accounts, and they will just like manually actually take actions, and then like they will try to subble a project that way. And sometimes it's hard to discover them, sometimes it's not that hard to discover them, and like they're all driven by like a cabal of like probably like 100 influencers or something who are like the airdrop influencers, and they'll just like do these Twitter threads, and then people just like really stupidly follow all the steps. Like we have this at Dune as well, where it's like we just have like random spikes where it's like, oh yeah, another Twitter thread of somebody like alluding to a Dune airdrop, and like it just doesn't get anyone anywhere. Like these people are not like, are they users of decentralized finance? Yeah, I guess, but like the utility for that, like they're purely driven by airdrops. Like they're not solving like a real problem in their lives or something. So like, what are we actually doing here? So like does it like the layer 0 like airdrop is like ridiculous. Like people have been like, I actually think like, yeah, layer 0 has farmed the farmers, and like I think that's like so value extractive. It's like you're taking from like the poor in this ecosystem even. So like that's like not gonna lie, it's a like reasonable go-to-market strategy. Somebody read the room and it's like, okay, we can earn money this way, and like we get our user numbers up, and like the industry is just not on a level of sophistication in regards to data or like understanding context. We're like, oh, we have like 1 million active users on Solana or like on Arbitrum, and like I don't know, we have like 1 million transactions per second, but it's like, what's the economic value of this? Like, what problems are we solving? What are we actually doing here? Like all of these things don't really make sense. So with that being like airdrop, like I don't know, like the uni airdrop was like, that was cool because it was like, that was the first thing to do that, and it was like quite equitable. Everybody got some money. Like it was like a big hooray moment for DeFi, and like, but everything after that is just like it kind like it jades you more and more. Where like I think with the Arbitrum airdrop, I really was like not disgusted. Disgusted is the wrong word, because like what do I care? But like there was like industrial, like there was videos out of industrial airdrop farms in China where they literally had like these like big boards of phones, like these click farms, and they were just going through there and like collecting the money. And I was like, holy shit, like what are we doing here? Like this is like what's the purpose of this? And it's like, I guess in the end, like the purpose is to decentralize the governance of the Arbitrum protocol. So like maybe we can stay in that example, and it's like, who are the people who should govern the Arbitrum protocol? Like that's a really hard question. And it's like in traditional like public companies, this is just like, okay, I can be an like a usual company just does an IPO, and then in that IPO I can purchase shares, and then I have voting rights due to those shares. But then there's also like investment banks or like hedge funds or big organizations, or even like I don't know, ETF issuers, or like people who like ETF like people like conglomerates of like shareholders who will just buy the token, and then in the end it's like who governs the protocol is who owns the tokens. And it's like we can't really do that due to like security offerings and whatever, and like bells and whistles. So like it is really hard to like find reasonable like to find mechanisms. But like what we're currently doing is you are like basically what happens is like you have the good distribution for like 10 minutes, and then all of the airdrop farmers will have dumped their tokens, and then you are back to like, okay, now the hedge funds and the big DeFi worlds own your protocol now. And it's like, what have you really achieved? Like all the DeFi researchers in Vietnam are not gonna participate in your like protocol governance. So it's like I really like, I don't have a solution. I just know the current situation is like it absolutely doesn't make sense, and all it does is kind of like it's regulatory like smokes and mirrors, where it's like, okay, like we can launch a token that I don't want to say the team got liquidity, but the teams also get liquidity as a byproduct. But it's on the path to decentralization. Sometimes the path to decentralization, like in the Arbitrum case, it's actually more like I actually believe them of like we want to make this like we want to decentralize our sequencer, we want to decentralize the governance, like that makes more sense. Or in the optimism case where it's like, okay, we're gonna like the optimism one is actually like kind of more reasonable, where they're doing like the retroactive public goods funding, but they also had a bunch of airdrops. Like there's like people are starting to like experiment. There's like Layer 3 or Rabbit Hole, which are doing like on-chain quests. But on-chain quests, like the idea of this is very nice, but then like it turns out this is just a tool to like accept like you now have the airdrop like thread guys on Twitter, and you have Layer 3 and Galaxy and Rabbit Hole. And like, they're just like farming, like they're just like posting farming recipes, and they're actually checking on chain if you've done this. And it's like, yeah, it's like the idea of this was nice, but like even like let's assume Layer 0 or like Rabbit Hole was like, yeah, now we're gonna decentralize the governance to like, I don't know, what's the chain that doesn't have a token right now, like Linea or something. Let's assume Linea like launches a token. That's like the consensus blockchain. Let's assume Rabbit Hole puts out like, I think they actually, or like there's some like, I think Linea has like a product for this themselves, where it's like they have a bunch of different tasks and like use this NFT marketplace and use this DEX and they use all of these things. And it's like, yeah, but like the same simple farmers will just use that. And it's like, is this really gonna, like that's the CEO of Rabbit Hole, like Brian Flynn or whatever. He's always like, oh, this is like airdrops are stupid, but like use our quests instead. And I'm like, but come on, like we're just gonna do the same thing, and people are just gonna like follow your recipes instead of doing random actions. Like, and now like, I mean, like you could do micro incentivizations of like, okay, like let's actually like get somebody to like use this NFT marketplace. Maybe they are sticky, but like 99% of airdrop farmers are not sticky users. Like it just doesn't work like that. And like in general, like we're building all of this infrastructure, we've built all of this stuff, but like where are the users, where are the actual good use cases? And like I actually think that like the airdrop farming is like a huge problem for the industry because all the metrics are absolutely horrible. Like we have this in Dune where like if we get attacked, we are like, okay, bye metrics, we're just flying blind now. Like this fucking sucks. Like we have a feedback board. And like I'm like there was like a few threads over the last few days. So like the feedback board is just getting spammed with bullshit. And like sometimes there's like valuable feedback in there, but like I gotta filter through like 500 posts. Like you really think that I like take the attention to like really pay attention to like everything that I moderate? So like I might delete good posts, and like we have like problems tracking activation, and like where people like fall off because they're like from the start they're not genuine users. And like that's the same for like all of these networks, all of these products, all of these protocols, where like in Web3 you actually have incredible rich like contextual data on all the addresses because everything is everything's public or pseudonymous. So like you can actually track like what somebody's doing across all the chains and across all the ecosystems, and like are they a DeFi user, are they an NFT user, are they also using Zora, are they on Farcaster? Like you can build like elaborate like social context, but like because like random actions, like literally it's like because like people spamming blockchains and just producing garbage, or like I don't blame these people. Like if I was like maybe even if I dropped out of university in Germany, like I might be an airdrop farmer. Like it's a really, really lucrative business. Like it's like it's almost like you're leaving money on the table, especially with like the level of sophistication that us two have. It's like we're just like, okay, like I'm not gonna engage in this because I think it's more morally kind of wrong, or like I don't like, I want to spend my time in better ways. Where like like the ZK Sync airdrop, like as the time of recording, I think it's like in the process, or like the allocations have been released a few days earlier, and it's like I didn't do a single transaction on ZK. Like I don't have an allocation for that airdrop. And it's like it could have been so like I could have like set myself a calendar reminder, just do that. And it's like, but so like it's a very weird situation here. Like it doesn't make sense.
I'm the same, man. So I understand totally. So
yeah. So
man. No, go on, finish the sentence. Sorry, I thought you were making.
No, I don't have the answers. Like I can only like talk about.
Oh no, of course. I have to be honest with you. I when I like it's not, I don't think it's about finding the correct answer, because I don't think distribution is very subjective, right? And fairness is subjective. So if I'm distributing apples or cows or cars or whatever, or tokens, the subjective fairness of my distribution is going to be only in my head. So I don't think it's possible to find like this ever endless chase for the right, equal, fair, whatever. It doesn't matter if it's just distribution. Equal and right doesn't exist in nature in general. So like I don't think, but yeah, but you mentioned one topic which I actually have and my team will kill me if I don't ask you that question, because they're like, you have to ask him that, you have to ask him that. Like, okay. So I was actually recording with Francesco Cabana, one of the two public guys from Monero, because there's Fluffy Pony and there's Francesco Cabana, the DevOps, I call him. But again, I called you a researcher, so maybe he also doesn't like to be called the DevOps. So anyways, and we were talking about surveillance, and one of his sentences was kind of on the top, but I like that he said it. That one of the biggest threats for the industry today is the surveillance, on-chain surveillance analytics. So how, as somebody who is in the middle of all of that, right? How do you, and at the same time you mentioned, I don't like authority, and the way you talk, you can tell that you have a pseudonymous, at least, you're somewhat private person. And here, I'm being a bit of the devil's advocate, of course. I want to get a reaction from you. But how do you find all that, and how do you see the whole on-chain analytics as a, I don't know, man. I mean, I think there is no particular question, but I'm just going to give you this information, and whatever you feel about it.
Yeah, the situation is really like untenable, to be honest. Like everything is so public. Like it's incredible how public everything is, and like you basically, like you're just like, it's like you have an open bank account. And for most people listening, or for most Web3 native people, they probably have like more assets in Web3 than not. So like to like actually have good OPSEC and kind of like divide the, like, because you want to have some public funds, like you want to have like a POAPs and like collect NFTs and whatever, like that's kind of social signaling. But then on the other side, you want to I just want to like have a savings account or like do investments or whatever, and you want to you want to divide those. And like before Tornado Cash like got whatever restricted, or the US government was like sanctioned it, I guess. It's actually on some sanctions list. The smart contracts are on sanctions list, but only on Ethereum. It's hilarious. It's like, I think only on like Ethereum and BNB or whatever. It's like they missed like the deployments of Optimus and everything. So like technically you could still it's so stupid. But yeah, like with Tornado, you could literally like you could kind of like distribute those funds, and you could be like, okay, like this is my like play money and this is my public persona money. And here I collect NFTs and like do all of this stuff, or like do maybe like angel investing as well, or like I want to like I buy some tokens to show support to that ecosystem, or like kind of like that. Even though like nobody really looks at this data, it's kind of like it's kind of a virtual signaling going on where you still do that even though like nobody really looks at it. I feel like. And then on the other side is you could have like your private funds, and there's still ways to do this right now. Where like you can just use a centralized exchange and use that as like a obfuscation mechanism. And then the centralized exchange knows what you're doing, and like they know the two addresses, so like they can make the connection. So it's like if you want to do criminal things, like that's probably not the best way. I would generally advise doing criminal things. So like I don't have like a big problem with that. I think there's methods to like even piece that together. Like there's like advanced, I don't know, you can track people like even through centralized exchanges, and like there's probably ways to like completely avoid that. Like by like, I don't know, you can do like such elaborate, like you can go from like Ethereum to like a centralized exchange, then from the centralized exchange you can first of all like exchange currencies, then go to Solana, then go to Bitcoin, then go from Bitcoin to Ethereum. Like you can like, there's so many opportunities right now that like I don't know how Chainalysis or like how any like how Zach, like the web, how's that guy called? Is he called Zach?
I think his name is Zach. I'm pretty
Zach
sure, but I'm
XPT?
not
Yeah,
100%.
XPT. I think
Yes,
that's
Zach
missing.
XPT, yes.
That's why it sounds like
Zach
not
XPT.
familiar. Yeah. I don't know how he does it anymore. Like it's literally like it's insane. But like I don't know. Like I think they're also like using like the metadata information of like okay the IP address and like all of these different things. But like anyways, like there's ways to kind of stay like at least pseudonymous or like for 99% of the population you can stay anonymous, but like the work it requires to do those things is like so hard. So like that's like where I'm like, okay, like we need like if we want to get to like the next billion users, if we want to get to like that stage, we need to have more inbuilt privacy and we need to like actually find a way to make this more accessible for the normal person. It's like every like form of security and like yeah it's not really security but like it has a user cost and like the user cost right now or like of obfuscation in this case is like it has a user cost and like the costs are so high right now. It's like who's gonna do this? Like when Tornado was still alive there's also ways to reject Tornado but it's like it's way or like it's still live but like now it's like if you use it like no centralized exchange is gonna take your funds anymore and like you have some explaining to do and it's like really annoying. Like one of my addresses, like one of my really old addresses actually, I was using Tornado, so like now every time, like I've been banned from like getting airdrops and stuff. I was like, you've used Tornado in the past, like, you like you must be some kind of criminal. I'm like, no, I was just a privacy conscious person. So yeah, I think my summary here is like it's like it's really frightening actually how like transparent everything on chain is. It's like if you give me like one of our developers just signed up for Farcaster, and from that I was able to track his like entire like portfolio because he had like made one mistake of like I'll just like send some gas money to like another account, and it's like then you find that account and you're like, oh, there's like more connections here, interesting. And then you're like, okay, like I now see your entire portfolio. Like you can you need to be like so vigilant, and you need to be so like on fucking on point in order to preserve your Web3 privacy. And that's just the on-chain aspect. I'm not even talking about like Rebbe is probably tracking you, MetaMask is definitely tracking you, Ledger is tracking you. All of these and like your centralized exchange kind of knows what you're doing. It's really hard, and like we need to make it easier for users to at least say pseudonymous. I really like the pseudonymous aspect of this, where it's like I as a data person, I'm obviously like, okay, like we can actually like make sense of all of this data and like we can all use it, and like I don't know, it's like is marketing the most valuable use case? Probably not, but like product iteration and all of that stuff, it's like it's interesting, and like I think in the end like data is a way to shape your view of the world, and the more accurate like sense of the world the more people can do, the faster we're gonna progress as a space, as a civilization, as whatever, where it's like we break down the barriers, and it's like if you only have like anonymous data and if all of this data is like locked away, like we're losing something that's like special here, where it's like we can actually iterate and I can learn from the mistakes of others, and I can just like I can verify everything independently, and all of these like good attributes that like the openness of Web3 data has at the same time.
I can foresee that in 10 years, you know, the token police, you know, are you hiding tokens under your floorboards? You know, like you, so yeah, but no, it's fucked up. To be honest, it's like, I don't even know what to say. I mean, I can say a lot about it, but I don't really know what to say because I don't know a solution, and I don't think like it exists. I don't think there is a solution. I mean, unless you, I don't know, go sell all your tokens, I guess, right? Like for fiat money, and then take that fiat and like reinvest it somehow through a centralized exchange and then like distribute it on private accounts. I mean, I guess that could be like somewhat
yeah, but
working,
even then
but I'm
the
not sure
centralized
about it.
exchange knows what.
Yes,
Like,
yes.
I guess like what you could do is like you could go to some like you can sell like in some like I think even in Istanbul there's like places where you can just walk in, like say I want to sell one Bitcoin, they'll just literally give you cash, and then you can take that cash.
In Croatia.
Oh yeah, everywhere. It's like you just gotta find some not so attentive governments that allow this to happen, and then you can walk with that cash. You can walk to maybe 3 doors down, and then those guys will like take your cash and give you Bitcoin in return, and then I guess it's like you can also like do relational mapping. So like maybe if you wait 4 months and then like maybe change cities as well, then you're like finally private. So like it is very hard, and like I like they like there's ways definitely, but like for the like everyday user, like even like bridging through all of these different chains, like the data indexing is like so bad for some of them that like if you bridge to Metis and then from Metis to fucking like Boba and from Boba to the like whatever Gitcoin like regenerative chain, like some like at some point somebody's gonna lose your track just because there's no Etherscan, like Blockscout fucking sucks on that chain, or like Dune doesn't have all the data, Chainalysis doesn't have, like you can kind of like run, but like that's only a matter of time until somebody catches up with you, until like the analytics tools are like caught up to all of these chains. But like for the moment you can kind of run away, like literally run away, where you're just like doing the most random stuff, and like people will eventually lose your tracks.
It's like we said before we started recording, you can invent anything, but a $5 wrench will help to solve any hiding tracking records. I mean, solves anything. Man, let me quickly jump into a quick blitz with you. 3 questions. I'm going to do a quick one. You can answer slower, of course. It's not like the first thing that comes into your mind, can be up to you. 3 bit weird questions. First one, give me one book, movie, or song that has throughout your life had a positive influence on you. I told you it's going to be weird. There's going to be one movie, man, that you like. Come on.
No, I'm just thinking of like the thing that most, like that has the most, it like kind of, it kind of changes from time to time. I think last winter I read a book. I don't even know how the book is called anymore, but it taught me to, if I compliment something, to not say good job, but rather to say I love this as a I statement. Because if you say good job, it implies that I have the authority to judge your work. And by saying I love this, it's like you're not doing a value judgment. You're just like this is my this is like, I don't know. I'm not kind of like saying that I'm like on a higher level than you. I can't judge if this is a good job or not. Like I'm just saying like I love this. And like I think that's like really shaped a lot of my communication, where it's like it's kind of like more like I communication rather than you communication, or like very, very value judgment driven communication. And we can put the book into the show notes. I'll find it, but
I don't know the book name, but I can definitely help because there is show notes. You're right. Non-aggressive communication is the style of what you're talking about. There is like a whole field of study called non-aggressive communication, and it teaches you to talk in I sentences and like try to use like. But if you do find the book, please send me, and it will definitely add it to the show notes. Okay.
I'm generally kind of wary of like therapy talk. Like I think like we have like therapy fight too much of society, and I think sometimes like it's just like go out and fucking solve your problems. Like no amount of inner work can fucking save your life. Like I've talked to people who are like who've been in therapy for a long time. It's like they're just like kind of like, okay, my life fucking sucks, but like I'm just gonna like align my like inner work to like this life, and like that's gonna be all right. I'm like, you're like, this is not like you're like swaying away from what you should be. Like this is weird. Like you've manipulated yourself into believing you live a good life.
I can relate to that, so I'll skip on commenting that. Second question, man. Give me one or share one motivational thing that helps boxer to keep on digging into information, keeps on trying to find new interesting things, keep on being that person that is the only person up to 50 kilometers that can just you be you, or something motivational that keeps you being you.
I really like to create, and in order to create you need to understand things deeply. So like you can't create cool things if you don't understand what the fuck you're on about. Like I really resonate with artists who've like you can tell like they've been doing this since their childhood. They have like traversed a million different variations of whatever thing they're doing, and now they're like a good art is always like the combination of like a lot of different influences. Like we're always like kind of building on top of what other people are doing. So like in order to create, you need to understand. And I think like a lot of like current life is like too little creation and too much consumption. And like people should create more. Like this Like I only moved into this place like 3 weeks ago, and like I have the money to pay people to like paint my floors or like paint my walls and like lay new flooring and like do all of the stuff. But like I would rather like I've created this. I can fix this myself now. Like I know how the pie is made, and like I think like too many people are like too comfortable in their life, and they're like, oh no, this is gonna be work. But like I think like that's actually where things get interesting. I'm like, okay, like how the fuck does like laying flooring work? Or like how does like the piping in my bathroom work? Like I didn't do the piping. Like that's like too advanced, where like there's like a certain threshold you need to find of like what makes sense to like build with this, buy with this, consume with this, create. But like a lot of modern life is just consumption. Like you go out and you buy stuff and I don't know, like so much of life is just driven by consumption, and like that's like a fleeting kind of like feeling of happiness. But like you can't, like every time I walk through my flat, I'm like, damn, I've fucked up that piece of floor. But like in general, this is really nice, and like it just gives me like a very like a longer sustained happiness, other than like being like, okay, this is nice now. It's like a, I don't know, like yeah, creation makes me happy like long term.
I can totally relate to that, man. I think that I mean I have, well, I don't want to like, talk about certain things maybe because they're too private, but for sure, like I think doing things, I mean, I spend at least one day a week gardening. I have over 200 plants in my house.
Nice.
And like types of plants. So there's actually more, but there's like 35 types of vegetable and fruits growing, and I have a big terrace, and like I spend literally one day from morning to night in a week just gardening. If I miss a day, then I have to spend 2 or 3 sometimes. But like it's not because I cannot have somebody else do it for me. I can, but I don't want to. This is what brings me happy. It's my meditation. It's my like, yeah, totally. Man, just before you joined, I did see on Twitter a guy posting an image of floors that went wrong after I did it himself. I hope it was not you. But so last question, I promise. Last question. Give me one character or person, dead or alive. They could be a developer, made up, actor, I don't know, a Disney character, a person from your life. That is not your guru, because I personally don't believe in gurus and I don't think it's a correct thing. But somebody who positively influences you, who is not a negative influence in you throughout your life. And sometimes when you're stuck, you don't think what would they do, but maybe you're like, okay, they could help me right now, at least by just being themselves. Is there such a person or a character or personage? I don't know what's the right word here.
Yeah, this goes into a lot of different directions. Like there's like people who inspire me intellectually. There's people who like just motivate me personally. Um, I think in my personal life, it's my big brother who's like, he's really like just shaped how I am. He's like an incredible workhorse. He just gets shit done. His like sense of agency is something I aspire to. It's like he's just like, oh, we're gonna do this, and then like it just gets done. It's like amazing to witness that, and like it's always been a person I can rely upon, who's like helped me through like personal crises, or like throughout my life, like shaped my life path quite significantly. So like big love for my big brother. I probably tell him too little how much he means to me.
Nice, man. I like it. Thank you for sharing that, by the way. Boxer, thank you in general for all your answers and for all. There's a lot of advice in this episode, guys. So for the listeners out there, try to look for it. Of course, everything we mentioned will be in the show notes. Once again, Boxer, thank you for your time. Please don't hang up just yet. This is just goodbye for recording. So goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye, man.
This content was created by the Citizen Web3 Validator. You may support our work by delegating to any of our nodes.